So our timeline keeps getting weirder and weirder, as this is a post from the White House reposting Nicki Minaj, a pop star, and she says, "One of the most meaningful gifts I've ever received in my entire life." And what's that gift? A Bible. A Donald Trump signature edition, Holy Bible, apparently signed by Trump, and you even get the pen, I guess. God bless the USA. Like, this is our whacked out timeline. And at least we're using Trump's name here because in the past, Trump had a whole bunch of pseudonyms and he would call news outlets to pump himself up. He would use names like John Barron, John Miller, David Dennison. And apparently, John Barron, one of Trump's pseudonyms, called C-SPAN today. And you got to hear this for yourself.
Well, this is John Barron, and this is the worst decision you've ever had in your life, practically. Jack's going to agree with me, right? But this is a terrible decision. And you have Hakeem Jeffries, he's a dope, and you have Chuck Schumer, who can't cook a cheeseburger. Of course these people are happy. But true Americans will not be happy. And you have the woman earlier, I assume she's a woman, she's a Democrat, but she said she's disgraced. She's devastated.
All right,
by
John.
this.
We'll go to Chester, who's in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
All right, so they cut him off. The question, though, is, was that Trump using the pseudonym to call C-SPAN? People have been arguing this on the internet. I'm gonna lean towards no, because I don't know if Trump would make the cheeseburger comment. The other stuff, though, does sound like him. And also, he should be wheezing a little bit more because Trump's kind of in a wheezy mood these days. But either way, to even, have this discussion at all shows you how whacked out our timeline is, because when you look at the supposedly real stuff, this is coming from the White House, it's as whacked out as that C-SPAN call. This is the White House. They say American flag, American flag, American flag. Donald Trump, working with the fantastic governor of Louisiana, Jeff Landry, we're going to send a great hospital boat to Greenland to take care of the many people who are sick and not being taken care of there. It's on the way. What? So apparently, I guess now we're more concerned about sick people in Greenland than sick people in the USA. I mean, even just sick people in the White House, I think we should send a medical ship there. In my opinion, there's plenty of sick people there we got to worry about. So yeah, this is actually a tweet, again, from the White House. Headline then is, Trump says he's sending a hospital ship to Greenland. Denmark says, no, thank you. Of course they do. Our news is so crazy. Okay, here's a quote then. This is from the Denmark defense minister. They say, the Greenlandic population receives the health care it needs, either in Greenland or, if specialized treatment is required, in Denmark. It's not as though there's a need for special health care initiative in Greenland. What? It doesn't even seem real. And then you got this situation to where essentially world leaders are all trolling Trump, and rightfully so, because our timeline and the dude in the White House is just whacked out nonstop. And then the White House has to go out and tell everyone, hey guys, everything's fine. Everything's fine, right? U.S. tells partners to honor trade deals as Trump recalibrates. Because basically what that tells me is, like, I'm sure through back channels, many countries are like, you know what? You just lost the Supreme Court. You got nothing on us anymore, right? I'm sure that's the phone calls going on.
We're going to save the Great Salt Lake. You know that, right? We've got our problem. He came in to see me today. These are the kind of things. He said, sir, we have to save the Great Salt Lake. I said, explain this to me, please. And in that city called Salt Lake City, somebody said, where is it located? I said, it's located in Salt Lake City, right? So he said, we're losing water rapidly, and it's getting smaller, drier. And you tell those people we're going to work on it really hard. We're going to save it. We're not going to let that go. That is what I call a real environmental problem, not using hairspray and I'm going to ruin the ozone, okay? I'm in my apartment in Trump Tower. The building is totally sealed off, and if I use hairspray, they say, sir, you're creating an environmental hazard. That's not the kind of thing we want to talk about. But saving the Great Salt Lake, that's what we're going to be doing, okay?
So my advice to Trump is just keep using that hairspray. Maybe all the hairspray is affecting his brain. I don't know.
Will you ask Congress to actually legislate, or are you just going to avoid going to Congress?
Well, first of all, Congress has already put out statutes allowing the president to impose tariffs. And tariffs have been in place under those types of statutes for many years at this point. So in some ways, Congress has already pre-approved these types of authorities. I'm happy to have conversations with Congress about how to legislate the president's trade program. And I've had, conversations like that already, and there is some interest. And so we're happy to talk to them about it, but we're not going to stop our program. We'll just use the congressional authorities they've extended already for now.
So that's our head trade rep, Greer, and he's making the case that Congress has pre-approved everything. So therefore, we don't need to talk to them. These guys are so weird.
Question. Will you refund the roughly $134 billion in revenue taken by these emergency tariffs?
Well, Dana, that's not the big question. Let's just level set here. What the Supreme Court...
Okay, I disagree. That is the big question, is where is my money? When am I going to get my refund? I totally disagree with Besson here. That is the question. Where's my money?
Did was a very narrow reading of the president's authority under the IEEPA tariffs. We have other tariff authorities which have been functioning, Section 232 tariffs, Section 301 tariffs. And Dana, when you say it's a big question, that's bad framing, because the Supreme Court didn't even address that. The Supreme Court remanded it down to a lower court, and we will follow what they say, but that could be weeks or months when we hear them. So the Supreme Court did not address refunds.
Sure, they didn't address refunds. That is clearly going to be up to you, which is why
No, Dana, it is not up to me. It is It is not up to the administration. It is up to the lower court. Let's just be clear on that.
Okay. Well, the Justice Department told a federal appeals court in this very case last year, if tariffs imposed on plaintiffs during these appeals are ultimately held unlawful, then the government will issue refunds to plaintiffs.
Again, I'm not going to get out ahead of the court. We will follow the court's direction, but as I said, that could be weeks or months away. That decision was not rendered on Friday.
Checks in the mail, guys. After you get your Doge refund check and your, mini promise stimuluses, then we're going to send you your tariff refund checks. I mean, this is this game that people are playing.
When you were last here in October and I asked you about the impact of the tariffs, you said the global economy had not yet felt the pain. Did we avoid that pain? Did the consumer avoid the pain?
I don't think the consumers avoided the pain. And I think that there are many studies that are being completed now to determine what is the impact and where is the burden of tariffs. And I think that while some exporters have borne some of the brunt, most of it was borne by the US importers and eventually the US consumers, because the US importers have squeezed their margins a bit to absorb some of these additional cost due to tariffs. But there is a point where you don't squeeze your margins so much and you have to pass it on to the consumers. I think this is what we are beginning to see, and multiple studies and very serious people are looking into this. We are trying to look at the data ourselves to make sure what impact it has on trade and on our economies, and this is a continuous process which is clearly going to be a bit disrupted by the current development.
So that's coming in from Europe, basically talking about how the companies importing into the USA and the consumers are bearing the brunt of the tariffs, which we've known for a while now, but I just want you to see that other countries see it too.
The 15% tariffs, of course, will expire at the end of July. That's about 3 months before the midterms. So what does President Trump do at the end of that period with midterms looming that have to be on his mind? He comes out and extends it. He comes out and announces more. This is not popular with the American people. In our latest poll, 2/3 of Americans are not happy with the tariffs.
Well, the president's been campaigning on tariffs and protecting American industry for many years. And he does what he says. He delivers on his promises. And so the policy hasn't changed. The legal tool to implement it, that might change, but the policy hasn't changed. And so we're aiming for continuity. There's a 15% tariff now. It's roughly equivalent to the types of tariffs that we had in place under IEEPA. As this tool expires, I'm going to be conducting Section 301 investigations. The Commerce Department has existing tariffs under Section 232. A lot of tariffs are still in place. The reality is we want to maintain the policy we have as much continuity as possible, make sure that business understands this is the direction we've been going. We're going to continue going.
Good luck getting your refund back. American people don't like it, and the Trump people are going to keep doing this crazy whacked out stuff. This is the polling data that we're looking at then today. 60% disapprove of Trump ahead of State of the Union post-ABC Ipsos poll finds. You can see the overall here: approval of President Trump's job performance, do you approve or disapprove of the way Trump is handling his job as president? So the disapproves at 60, it's ticking up. So we were back in October at 59, 56% in September, now it's at 60. Approve at 39, it was 43 back in September. And now I'm thinking the same thing you're thinking, like, who are these 39% of the people? It's just crazy. You want to look at various issues. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Trump is handling of each of the following? So they have disapprove basically across the board. He's underwater, be it the border, immigration, the economy, U.S. relations with other countries, tariffs, and inflation. So actually, they were showing on the screen the tariff, 64% don't like it. But inflation's even higher, 65%. And I want to show you this, and it's hard to know what to make of this kind of stuff, to be frank with you guys. But there was shooter's not the right word. This says, it's from the Wall Street Journal, man killed by officers at Trump's Mar-a-Lago home. Secret Service says a man was fatally shot after he breached the Florida property's secure perimeter early Sunday. This is what Fox News has to say about that.
At 1:30 this morning, the security detail detected that an individual had made his way into the inner perimeter of Mar-a-Lago. A deputy and 2 Secret Service agents on the detail went to that area to investigate. They confronted a white male that was carrying a gas can and a shotgun. He was ordered to drop those 2 pieces of equipment that he had with him, at which time he put down the gas can, raised the shotgun to a shooting position. At that point in time, the deputy and the 2 Secret Service agents fired their weapons and neutralized the threat. He is deceased at the scene.
So that's the description of it. I don't know what to make of it other than what they say, and I just show you guys what it is. So that's what's going on. I'd like to hear your thoughts about any one of these things. This is our crazy timeline, and I'll catch you all in the next video.